This is a video review of the Ressha TeiOh and the final combination of all of the other mecha of Ressha Sentai ToQger, the ToQ Rainbow. So, we're going to start off with the Ressha, and I actually have a bit of confusion here. I don't know if this thing is called the Ressha, or if this thing is. And the reason why I'm confused is because I've heard lots of people calling this thing, and this is just one of the, you can use as part of the limb swap gimmick of the line, or you can use it as a Henshin thing. And I'm pretty sure this is used for the Battleizer in ToQger. I'm actually a little bit behind on ToQger, and that's why I'm not sure what any of this is called in this mode. So if this is the Ressha and this is not, then I don't know what to call this mode except the Ressha. So anyway, moving on. This is about the size of the Henshin Ressha, so this is one of the Gashapon ones, so it doesn't have the limb swap gimmick. So as you can see, it's a normal size thing, and the Ressha here, the big one, just absolutely dwarfs them. And I can put one of these guys by the side just to give you an idea of how big this thing is. So there's Safari Gao, and yeah, this thing is very massive, and that's just the train mode. We haven't gotten into any of the other stuff, and a bit of warning ahead of time, stuff's gonna go on camera. I'm gonna do my best, but basically, my stage area here is made for big stuff. I mean, that's why my camera is so high right now. It's about 1.5 feet up off the ground. But even so, this guy kind of breaks the envelope, and we won't really see it until we get to the terminal mode and then to the ToQ Rainbow mode, how bad it gets with this guy. But this guy gets very big. Well, he's not massive, but he's big. You'll see what I mean. So anyway, there's one last look at the Ressha as far as the Henshin part goes. Now let's take a look at the actual big train mode here. This train is ginormous and quite heavy. It's actually about as heavy as Ground Gosei Great, or the combination of Daikaio and Shinkino. I forget what that's called. I think it's called Daikai Shinkino, but that's a bit simplistic. Anyway, I'll get to those reviews later, but anyway, this thing looks beautiful from certain angles. Like, the front of it looks great. It looks like a massive steam engine, and it looks really good. I love the golden paint on it, and there are no smudges or thin places on it. It's a very well done paint job, and the gold itself is really nice too. Lots of lovely details, lots of lovely rivet details. Whatever this stuff is, I don't really know much about trains. And moving on, you can see on the side there's just as much detail, although we're starting to get towards a little bit weak because there are some gaps in here. And at first I really hated these gaps. I don't mind them so much now because you still get the core train inside and you can see where it is a train, so this is more like some stuff that's just off to the side, but it's still the train. But at first when I saw it, I was like, oh god, so like, this is supposed to be a big-ass train, but then there's no big-ass train back here. It's not actually as bad as it looks. It's, because of the stuff in here, it's actually ends up being a bit solid, but it is somewhat off-putting when you first pick it up, and it's something you'll have to get used to. Now, moving up to the top, you can see what will be some of the robot mode stuff, and it doesn't really look like robot mode stuff, and that actually is to the detriment of the robot mode, because, well, we'll see when we get to the robot mode. But anyway, still some pretty nice detailing. And that's about it for this mode. It can roll quite well, because this thing is very heavy. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 casters on it, so it rolls quite well, and it has a pretty decent train like this. So now, we're going to get into the combination to Ressha TeiOh, and I gotta warn you guys, this is one of the most complicated transformations I have ever seen in Super Sentai. It took me about 5 hours to get it down the first time. So if this makes the video goes just super long, just bear with me. So to do this, we're going to start off with the tiny Ressha, and we're going to bring this up here because this will be the face. Then we're going to take the Ressha and bring it up like this. Bring this up and plop this down here, and that's Ressha TeiOh. So yeah, not the most complicated kind of world. And as you can see, he does have a unileg where it's just one leg. There's no split, even though I really feel like they could have put one in here. And it's just as thick as it was in the train mode, and ultimately kind of a disappointment. In this mode, the only pose ability you really get is this. Just moving the arms, and that's about it. So yeah, this is probably one of the most disappointing Sentai mecha I've seen in a long time. And there are reasons for this. So let's get into them, because there's not really much more to say, because it is exactly the same as it was in the train mode, just stood up with the Hyper Ressha actually locked into place. So now to start off the next part of this, we're going to pop this off and just put it off to the side. And what we're going to do is we're going to come over to here, to this button right here. We're going to press it forward, and that will allow us to split this thing in half. It'll clip into place, and then you can release this, and it'll all lock down into place. Okay, so now we've brought this down. We're going to take these, which will be the arms for ToQ Rainbow, and bring them out to the side. And this is the terminal mode for this thing, and it kind of does and kind of doesn't look like a big train station, because on the one hand I see the tracks, and actually let me put these up. I see the tracks, and I see them, but only 3 of them actually work, because if anything, let me put these on here, tries to use them, well, they're going to get interrupted by these things, which don't go down. So if it goes forward, yeah, they actually latch into place. And then there's no way for them to get off. And the same thing kind of applies for the ones right here and here. So you really only have 3 usable tracks. And the other thing is that these tracks are only good for the tiny Ressha, the tiny forms here. For any of the DX Ressha that are super long, it doesn't really work. And let me show you why. I'm going to take a Build TeiOh's legs here for this, because it's the only one where it's easy to get to one of the really long trains. So, pop these off. And then now we kind of get to the to one of the problems here, which is these things cannot go down without doing this. So it's really, this is more size for the smaller things, for like the smaller forms of the Reshas, or the Gashapon Reshas. And that's actually going to be something that's going to come back later on when I talk about my actual opinion on this thing, because so far I have actually tried to keep my opinion out of this, of what my overall opinion on this thing is, just giving commentary about things, small things I do or don't like, and there's a reason for that. So moving on, actually before we do that, there is a little bit of detail I do want to point out here, which is you can see this thing right here, which does look like the end of a train station. It's got the clock, it's got the glasswork here, so you can see the trains from the outside, or the trains can look out. Well, this isn't Thomas' tank engine anyway, so it does look like a train station up here, and overall it is a pretty good train station for these guys, but it doesn't have quite the interaction it should have with the DX figures, so keep that in mind. And that's really as far as we're going to go with this, because there isn't that much to this unless you're really into the roleplay stuff. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at ToQ Rainbow. Now to do this, we're going to get to one of the things I dislike most about this guy, which is we're going to have to put him off to the side. And now we're going to have to bring in, because I don't have the Shield Ressha and some of the Shield Ressha, the Drill Ressha, I don't have some of those guys. I'm going to have to make some substitutions here. So I'm going to have to take some of the Ressha off of this guy here, Safari TeiOh. I'm going to take off 4. Now, I'm going to put this off to the side, and I need to take off 5 from ToQo. So take this Ressha off, take this Ressha off, take this Ressha off, take this Ressha off, take this Ressha off. Now I'm going to need 3 from Dieselo. So take this Ressha off, take this Ressha off. And are you starting to catch a pattern here? There's a lot of disassembly if you are trying to combine it with the DX figures. And then from Build TeiOh, you're going to take off 1. Okay, so now, we got a bunch of the tiny Ressha down here, okay? Now we got 1, although this one is avoidable, most people will end up having this problem with a Safari TeiOh, but we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 wrecked Megazords just to make ToQ Rainbow. So that's one of the problems I have, and why I recommend, if you're going to get Hyper Ressha TeiOh, especially if you're trying to get it for the ToQ Rainbow mode, go for the Gashapon versions of these, like for the Shield Ressha and the Scope Ressha and the Drill Ressha. Go for the Gashapon versions. They're going to be cheaper than the real versions, and while they won't have the limb swap gimmick, you will be able to use them with this to form ToQ Rainbow. So anyway, moving on, what we're going to do to combine all of these things with this is there's some little buttons right here. You want to pull them down, and those will raise up these little tracks. I'm going to show you that up close. And it's going to be kind of hard because this thing is very big and unwieldy. So you pull this up, back, and then these pop up. Going to do that 3 times, like this. And now we're going to take some of the Ressha and start putting them on. So we're going to take the red Ressha here and slide it on like this. Take the blue one, you're going to put it here. And I'm trying to keep this on camera as well as I can. Take the pink, we'll slide it up here. Take the yellow, we'll slide it up here. Then we'll take the Diesel Ressha, we'll slide it over here. Build Ressha, slide it on here. Then we'll take the Car Carrier Ressha, slide it on here. Tanker Ressha, slide it on here. And then Substitution Ressha 1 we'll put here. Substitution 2 we'll put here. 3 we'll put down here. This is where you would get Shield and Drill and Fire and Police. Put them down here. And now we are ready to go for the final transformation, which is going to be, we're going to push the button down here to fold the legs up like this. And now, let's see if I can get my camera any higher. That's about as far as it will go. Now we'll come up here, and this thing is massive. We'll take the cow catcher, we'll fold it down, rotate it to the back, and this is kind of interesting. I like this head reveal, although I'm not a super big fan of the head. You rotate this around like this to reveal the face, and then you'll pop it up like this. And then what you will do is you'll take the Hyper Ressha, turn it around like this, and plug it into the back like that. And here we go. This is ToQ Rainbow with some Substitution Ressha down here. And this thing is absolutely not massive because it doesn't have too much more mass than Hyper Ressha TeiOh did, and he was only about as big as some of the second stage combinations we've had in the past year. But he is really, really tall. He is about between 1.5 to 2 feet tall, and it is ridiculous how big he is. Because he's bigger than the super trained Megazord, which is ridiculous. Now, the next thing you can do is if you take the arms off down here, these are the arms from Hyper Ressha TeiOh, you can put them onto the forearms of ToQ Rainbow and get some guns. And of course, one problem I have with this guy here is that he has kind of the same problem that Hyper Ressha TeiOh did, which is where he has a unileg. But here it's a bit worse because with TeiOh, I could kind of figure out where his legs began, or his legs ended and his torso began. Here, I can only guess. Like, I'm guessing that the legs end here, and then this right here is a demarcation between the torso and the legs. That's my guess, because these are like supposed to be legs or something, I guess. I don't know. But I can't exactly tell. So that's one of the big problems I actually have with this guy, is that he's still he looks like more of a brick than his predecessor, than the last form did, even though he's a really skinny brick. And I do mean skinny. He is, by proportion, just about the skinniest Megazord that has ever existed, which is crazy. I mean, if you don't have any of the Ressha on, you can still make this form without the Ressha, but it is not... It is even worse than this. So I'm not super thrilled with ToQ Rainbow. You know, I get what they're going for. And for a size comparison, I'm going to take the only one of the Megazords that actually came out of this somewhat intact, which is Build TeiOh, which only lost an arm. And as you can see, he is about half to a third as tall. It's ridiculous how tall this thing is. And let's see, the only articulation you get in this mode is just rotating the arms around 360. And that's it. Okay, so final thoughts time. The thing is, I can't really compare this set to any of the other figures of the set over here. I can't compare it to these guys, because Hyper Ressha TeiOh and... yeah, just the Hyper Ressha TeiOh set is ultimately a fundamentally different kind of toy. Let's see if I can get a better shot of the head. it is fundamentally a different kind of toy than any of the other figures, because the other figures are just supposed to be, well, the normal Sentai Mecha thing, but this guy is meant to be more of a playset. And especially he's supposed to be a playset with some of these smaller guys. Like, he's perfect for these things. And since I am not in the business of reviewing roleplay toys or playsets or any of those kinds of things, I'm not really qualified to give an opinion on this guy, because I am so far out of the target demographic that my opinion is worthless. It's not for me, that's all I can say. If I were into these things, I might be able to say, oh, well, it's better than XYZ things, standard figure, so it is worth getting, or it's worse than XYZ standard figure, so it's not worth getting. But for this, it can function as a typical Sentai Mecha, and in that function, it's not worth getting if that's where you're getting it. So if you're going to get this, get it for the playset. But currently, because I only have my standards to judge it by, I cannot recommend it, but that's not necessarily because it's bad. Because if you want it for the playset value of having the terminal that you see in the show, that's actually great, I guess. But it's... And then you have all the other transformations on the side, too, that give it more play value. And that's great, but it's not for me. That's really all I can say. So, if you're going to get this guy for... Well, if you're going to get this guy, if you really want this guy, you got to have him in your collection. I would make sure that you either don't care about these guys at all, you don't care that you've got just parts left around that can't do anything, or I would make sure that you have a full set of the Gashapon guys, because like I only have one of these Gashapon Ressha here. I would make sure I have all of the Gashapon Reshas, so that I can make this guy, so you can make this guy without having to do this. So because this is really the ultimate thing that I don't like, because these are all, even this guy, even Diesel Ressha, these are all much better Sentai Mecha than this guy, and to make this guy, you gotta tear all of them apart, and I don't like that at all, really. So yeah, that's where I stand on this guy. I think some people are really gonna like this, potentially. There's the potential, but I don't know the playset demographic. It may just be this is the perfect toy for kids, in which case when we get however we take ToQger into the States after Dino Forces has concluded, when we run into that, maybe this will be great in the States when they've downsized it a bit and turned it into the Zord builder stuff, but and that's about where I stand. If you gotta have it, you've definitely got more kid-like qualities than I do, even though I'm a toy collector. So anyway, this has been a video review of Hyper Ressha TeiOh and ToQ Rainbow. I really hope you've enjoyed it, because this has been one of the weirdest things I've ever reviewed. It's very far outside of my comfort zone. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I review Transformers, Power Rangers, Digimon, Tobots, lots of stuff like that. If any of that sounds interesting, please subscribe, and thank you for watching.